Thank you for joining us today on Decision 2022, Next Door Radio's coverage of the 2022 election here in Granville County. Today, we're joined by Clinton Owens. He's candidate for Granville County Sheriff. And Mr. Owens, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to this.
Well, we understand that you're a resident of Granville County. But I guess if you could just kind of tell the voters or our listeners how long you've been a resident of Granville County and kind of what part of the county do you live in, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, I've been in the county just over a year, or right at a year. I'm in the Ironwood subdivision, and so it's kind of I guess it's kind of a southern eastern part of Granville.
Gotcha. And you're a business owner. What businesses are you involved in?
Well, our company manages associations, a lot of nonprofits. So some are associations, 501c3, 501c6. We have charities and we have societies we manage. And we pretty much become their office, and we do everything from strategic planning, budgets, grants, on down to membership. So we can handle it all.
Wow.
And we do that for 21 associations or nonprofits.
Wow, that's cool. Well, how did just a little bit of background? How did you get into that business?
Very funny. I spent 17 years in manufacturing. So I worked my way up from on the floor all the way to management. But I was working for a particular company that they hired me to fix their accreditation. They were QS 9000 certified, accredited, and they went like 6 months without having any of the PMs done in the maintenance department. So they hired me in to do that. And so I went in and evaluated, rewrote the procedures because they couldn't do everything they were saying they could do. And it just got closer to the time for the audit. And they kept calling me in to ask me, what can we do about this paperwork we don't have? I'd say, there's nothing we can do, we don't have it. And eventually it came down to, they called me in pretty close to the audit time and said, what can we do? And I said, are you asking me to falsify this documentation? And the response was, we just need it done. And I said, well, if that's what you're asking, the answer is no. And they kicked me out of the office and said, you just need to leave. Wow. Came back the next day and they had my last check in their hand saying, you're not the type manager we need. And I said, evidently, I agree.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
And so what happened was, I figured that, I had like headhunters calling me to go back into manufacturing. And it happened to be that one of the girls in the office where my wife works, so we own now, but back then my wife was the general manager. I went out on maternity leave. So they're like, well, come in and can you help us out for, a couple of weeks? And I did, and I just ended up staying, it was except for a third pay, or, only making a third of what I was making before. It just wasn't that bad. And I stayed with the company until my wife and I bought it. And she's been with the company 30 years. I've been 20.
Wow. Very good. Well, I understand that you're a pro Second Amendment guy. Evidently, your favorite gun is a 1911. I saw a post on that you put on Facebook that was very interesting. Especially if you're into guns, and it's I would encourage the listeners to go to your page on Facebook and just kind of look at that, because it's a very interesting piece about how you work the gun, how it holds, what makes that gun different than others. So if you want to talk a little bit about the Second Amendment and kind of how you feel about that, that would be great.
I do. I'm one of the ones that, look at the first 10 amendments were all individual rights. And that second one's right up there at top. And I feel that's the one that was needed to protect our First Amendment right, free speech. And so when people come in and say it meant only for militia, no, it meant that could be used as a militia if, you need to take your gun with you, but it was for self-protection inside the home and outside the home. And that was my commitment, was that as long as I'm sheriff, neither me nor any of my deputies will take place in any government confiscation scheme. It's just not going to happen. That'd be a really way to get your deputies shot as well if you wanted to do that. Hey, go get these guns. Yeah, right.
Right.
But yeah, if it came down to confiscate, I'm not going to confiscate.
Gotcha. Well, You also pointed out that there's a major fentanyl problem in Granville County. Can you kind of expand on that?
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about that. And a bust that happened, I think it was in June of 2021, where I think they got like 35 grams of fentanyl on the bust.
Well,
Then they went back to the person's house and got more. So it was close to like 70 grams. I can't remember the exact amount. But when you look at how much fentanyl or how much little fentanyl it takes to kill somebody,
oh,
the amount they confiscated would have killed everybody in Granville County with no problem. You
well,
know, if it's pure, it's crazy. That stuff is, it's the big drug. Heroin's still there coming in, and you know, it's just really, you know, death, poison, you know, to our citizens, and definitely want to get this stuff off the streets.
gotcha. Well, just maybe take it another step. What do you think as sheriff? What is the sheriff's role in getting that stuff, or what is your department's role in getting that fentanyl off the street and drugs in general?
We're going to have to collaborate with other agencies heavily. You know, it's not going to be a one person, you know, show to get this off. And you know, you don't want to go out on the highways and just start, you know, pulling people or profiling. So you have to kind of wait till you catch someone speeding or someone acting erratic, you know, to pull somebody to really check without it coming down to a rights issue, a Fourth Amendment rights issue. So, you know, and the biggest thing, it's funny because my wife and I talked about this after the debate, and it's just like, what can we do? What can we do more than any other sheriff or state is doing? And I think it comes down to faith as in prayer. You know, it's going to take a lot of prayer to get a hold of this. And, you know, the border is so porous that it's coming through now, and nobody's even down there hardly able to try to stop it because of the lack of resources that this current administration, you know, has taken away from them.
Wow. Very good. Okay. Well, the other candidates at the speaking of the debate, we cover the debate with Next Door Radio, and I very interesting. You guys did a great job of presenting your beliefs and your platforms. One of the things that came up was auditing that evidence locker. Can you talk a little bit about that evidence locker? What does that mean? And then what does an audit of that entail?
It's kind of funny. My Roomba just kicked on, so it's making kind of noise.
Okay.
Hopefully, my wife will hear it and send it back home.
No worries.
But what we have there is, you know, when you have guns coming up missing, or they can't account for everything in the evidence locker. For a new sheriff coming in, you want that audited because you want to be able to go in there and say, okay, this is paperwork that's missing that we don't know what happened to these weapons or these drugs. And, you know, we need to get an idea of what's there now. Let's take note of that. Let's document it and make sure in the future that we have a policy and procedure in place that this is how evidence is entered. It's entered, you know, by one person or two people. And when evidence is taken out to go to court, then it needs to be signed off by more than one person. It's preferably with body cams running, so we have a video evidence of it as well.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, with your background in business, I know you do a lot of the auditing with your employees, your managers, things like that. Explain a little bit more about that aspect of it when you're going through. Are you going to be doing this by yourself? Are you going to ask for help? How does that work as a business mindset looking to take over the evidence or take it over sheriff?
Now you're talking about the accreditation right here, or just?
Yeah. So for the evidence locker itself, when you talked a little bit about that, would you, as your business background, doing editing and auditing with your managers, everything like that, what can you get used as your background for that aspect of it to take it in to something like this?
Oh yeah, that's part of like an accreditation program. It's all documentation. You have to have everything documented. You know, if someone comes in the evidence locker and it has not been properly documented, then whoever put that into evidence and didn't document it, it's going to get in a little bit of trouble, because if you don't, you'll never know what's in there. You'll never know what's coming out. So it will be a lot of checks and balances on that. You know, I'll probably come in behind them as well and say, okay, what came in last night? Let's take a look at it. who entered it into evidence, and make sure we have it. And now, if they've done it right, they've had their body cam rolling, they had their police car, sheriff's car video rolling. So it's all very well documented. And the main thing is keep that up, keep it, ready. So when it goes to court, you can pull video evidence and you can pull the actual paperwork along with anything that's confiscated.
Perfect.
Gotcha. Well, there's lots of law enforcement experience on the ballot this year. The guys running that we have met and that we saw in the debate that were with you that night. Ton of law enforcement experience. It's one of those situations where you're completely opposite. You're coming from the business aspect. You're coming from a management background and leadership and that kind of thing. Now, not to say that the law enforcement doesn't have leadership and the ranks and all that, but what separates you as a business owner or a business leader from the law enforcement experience that these other guys have?
I think it's my strengths of being in management. We look at that and we say, well, gosh, he doesn't have police experience or law enforcement experience here. But my management experience, to be able to see big picture. I'm not going to be viewing things from, law enforcement point of view when I look at things. I'm going to be looking at from a bigger picture. So I'm going to probably ask a lot more questions, when it comes to the law enforcement side of it. But if you look at, I mentioned I took a Strength Finders test, and it kind of takes your qualities. I'm going to just like maximizer, command, competition, activator, and futuristic. And each one of these skill sets it brings, I'll use to move the office forward, and as sheriff. So I think it's the big picture view that's going to help me more. The budgeting, having an extensive budget. If you take all of our clients together, there's probably $30 million in budgeting money that you're budgeting, between all the clients. That, and if you can't write a grant, then you'll never get any more money than what the county's going to give you, except for what you may confiscate, along the way that you have to share. So I just think all those strengths there, the strengths of leadership, management, when you look at kind of what the responsibilities of the sheriff, it's a lot of managerial, clerical, doing paperwork, warrants, complaints, reviewing patrol logs, seeing, hiring, and training the deputies, and managing the jail. All that is under a management type of format. So then you're out there with the community as well, and it's all relationship. If you go to our website of our company, our tagline is building relationships, delivering solutions. And, building that relationship and the community part of that is going to build trust that will allow us to do community policing, which I think will be a big thing to get control of the drugs.
Gotcha. Well, give us a day in the life of Sheriff Owens.
Wow, that's interesting. It'll probably be meeting with the deputies, being there first thing in the morning, trying to catch one's off shift, coming off shift, just to find out, what went on, any problems. I know if it's a big problem, I'm going to get a call in the middle of the night. Relating to the deputies at the courthouse, probably end up going over to the courthouse and just giving my deputies their support, and maybe testifying, letting them know, hey, I'm there for you, I got your back if anything comes up. Outreaching to the public's a big thing. I'm going to have to get out in the public and try to build trust back. So the day is going to be really busy, as in a lot of smaller things to start with. Like for the first 6 months, I see me digging into the policies and procedures and, really getting a hold on those, looking, is there anything that we're doing that doesn't work? Is there something we can be doing better? And what can we fix to make it better? So it's going to be kind of just a lot like I do every day, just about, except the interaction, with the court system, the deputies and stuff. But managing people is managing people. It's across the board. It's kind of the same.
Gotcha. What have you learned by being a candidate for sheriff? What have you picked up along the way?
Well, I didn't really know much about, what the sheriff did. I kind of thought, okay, he's out patrolling, he's out making arrests, he's out, investigating. But what I found out that if the sheriff is doing those things there, then who's doing his job? So I can see where I've learned more that the sheriff's position is more of a managerial administrative position than it is one actively going out and making arrests.
Gotcha.
Perfect. Again, joining us here tonight on Decision 2022 here on Next Door Radio and nextdoorradio.com. Clint Owens, candidate for Granville County Sheriff. We like to end our sessions here, really open up the floor for the next couple minutes, giving anything that we haven't discussed tonight that you would like to kind of get off your chest or anything like that. But the floor is yours, my friend.
No, I just wanted to reassure people that, because I'm not from law enforcement, that I can do a great job if they do give me a chance because of, just of the duties of the sheriff's office. A lot of people don't realize how much that is management administration. So I'm hoping that people will do a little bit of research there and say, hey, yeah, this is the guy we want. He seems like a really good guy, honest. That's what I'm looking for to happen.
Gotcha. Well, this has been Decision 2022 on Next Door Radio. Our guest tonight has been Clinton Owens, candidate for Granville County Sheriff. Mr. Owens, we appreciate your time and we wish you the best in the upcoming election.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.